I am expecting a restoration of Dante Fowler. So Dante Fowler is somebody right now that's not getting a lot of hype at all, because he almost has the feeling of a rebound, especially because Randy Gregory was almost signed with the Dallas Cowboys. They was already making announcements of him returning to Dallas when Dallas dropped the ball at the closing table trying to get his deal done. So then obviously became Dante Fowler, who was what some would consider a rebound pick to try to make up for the loss of Randy Gregory. So whenever most people think about rebounds, that's a negative connotation to where you are the afterthought of somebody that was really wanted in a relationship. That's a fair thought, especially assuming when and how did we got him. But when you turn on the tape of Dante Fowler, you can see flashes of the greatness and why he was picked in the top 5. You see good hands, you see good tenacity getting to the ball, great swiping, going after the ball, good bend. It's a lot about him to get excited about. He's somebody that can play with his hand in the ground as well as playing, standing up in a 3-4 outside linebacker position, which is how he played at Florida, where he earned being a top 5 draft choice. So the pass rush moves are there. The instincts are there. The tenacity is there. Sometimes you're in a wrong system. Sometimes you're in a failed system. Sometimes you are the primary guy, so it's easy to focus on you, and it makes it harder for you to get off. But it's no way you can really turn on the tape and not get excited about the potential, because it's clearly there. But I'm gonna go make a bigger case on why, from a strategic standpoint, he is likely going to have a restored career with the Dallas Cowboys. Because I'm gonna be all the way honest with you, it's what we do. Okay, so the Dallas Cowboys are really, really good at restoring former greats. I actually call them Marshall's free agents. I've been saying that for a minute now, to where Marshall's is a department store that get a lot of his inventory from high-end stores. But when you getting those Marshall's free agents, this is the thing. You got to understand that they come flawed. You got to understand it. But if you go to the right Marshalls, especially Marshalls that are by a lot of good high-end stores, you can walk out with a Macy's look, with a Neiman Marcus look, but you paid a low dollar. Well, the Dallas Cowboys have been using that strategy, and I think they using it with Dante Fowler. They've been aggressively into the Marshalls market for about now 4 years, and it's working. So some of the players that we can look at and say are Marshall's free agents or former great free agents for the Dallas Cowboys, to where they came to us flawed but end up working out real well, was we can start with Randall Cobb. Like, Randall Cobb was definitely a Marshall's free agent, it's no doubt. And we picked him up to, just like we was losing Randy Gregory, we picked up Randall Cobb to be the answer for losing Cole Beasley. And the question is, did he answer? Yeah, he answered. He did. When you look at his production for Dallas, you see 828 yards, which is better than the Cole Beasley season, 83 catches. He only had 3 touchdowns, but remember, he really should have been a 1,000-yard receiver, but he had big chunks taken away because of Connor Williams' holding calls. And then another thing, is obviously, this is why I say double check everybody's work, because if you look at the stats, even from the NFL, They left off the Dallas Cowboys. Yeah, they left him all the way out his career stats. So that's why I say you got to double check everything, even these references. All right. But going back, Randall Cobb was definitely one, and somebody that we picked him as a high value, former great free agent. So then going back to looking at Randall's numbers, so looking at the year before, would you say when we got him that was a good deal? No, right? 383 yards, right? But Dallas bet on him that they could restore him. They didn't stop. They also, a lot of people didn't think about this, but Amari Cooper was a restored Marshall's free agent. I know the narrative is, and been saying for a while, that Amari made Dak, but it's actually not true. It's actually very much so a lie. All right. So if we go look at Amari Cooper, where he was a flawed free agent, he had only 280 yards with the Raiders in 6 games. As soon as he got with Dallas, he exploded. With anybody, that's why they was, if you really remember, they was saying that we wasted a first on Amari. Yeah. But, yeah, Dallas, once again, bet on a flawed former great, or what I call Marshalls. Okay. We can continue because there's obviously then another one. Robert Quinn. Robert Quinn was somebody that was also looking like he was falling off a cliff. When you look at Robert Quinn and his production, right? And when Dallas acquired him. So when you look at Dallas acquiring him, he looked like he was heading in the wrong direction the previous years. 4 sacks in 2016. Only 4. Then 8.5. That's pretty good. Then 6.5, and then he massively was restored because we went into the Marshalls department store and we got us a flawed former great undrafted free agent and brought him in. So what is the real background story of Robert Quinn, and how does this actually fit in with Dante Fowler and his potential for restoration with the Dallas Cowboys? Well, the best way to think about it is to just listen to Stephen Jones and look at the full reasons why Quinn ended up becoming a Dallas Cowboy. Just listen in.
Tell us about what Robert Quinn will bring to this defense and why you were so excited to be able to get him on this team.
Well, I think obviously defensive line with our challenges we've had with with Randy. Certainly, I think Randy's done is back on it and really doing a great job of getting himself in a position where hopefully he can get back at some point and help us out. But with that unknown being there, and then of course having the same situation with David Irving, we, our pass rush, and we certainly don't have DeMarcus Lawrence signed yet either. We really felt like we needed to shore that up, and of course, D-Law comes off that left side. This right end spot with Randy being a question mark is a big deal to us, and certainly Robert's probably got a few more skins than Randy's. Been in the league quite a bit longer, but real important, as we all know, to get pressure on the passer, and really felt like he fit our system. We were fortunate. I think the Dolphins are moving to a 3-4 scheme down there, which really doesn't fit what Robert does. So
and see, say what you want though, but Stephen Jones was talking that real football right there. So Law Nation does a good job of explaining that a lot of times when you're trying to evaluate these players, you can't just look at them individually. You have to look at them based on where they're coming from, the systems that they was in, the help that was around them, to try to forecast and predict what's likely going to happen. So you can see there, that was a period around 4 years ago where Randy Gregory was obviously still going through the suspension issues. So Quinn was more so a reserve pick, and an insurance pick similar to what we doing with Dante Fowler right now. Because we lost Randy Gregory, we went to the reserves and we got Dante Fowler, another former great. That was the same logic that applied to Quinn before he exploded in terms of his sacks with the Dallas Cowboys. But there's another thing that I hope y'all caught that Stephen Jones was saying, and we do have that full interview in the description. It's one thing that I hope y'all caught. He said that Miami was moving to a 3-4 defense. So it didn't fit Robert Quinn. Versus at that time, Rod Marinelli was running a 4-3 aggressive defense where he was putting the defensive end's hands in the ground, which then fit the skill sets of Robert Quinn and that aggressive first step. It's the same thing with Dante Fowler, right? Except Dante Fowler is actually more so like a Randy Gregory, where he can play both ways. He can get off standing up and he can get off with his hand in the ground. Versus Robert Quinn was more so somebody who flourishes under 4-3 defenses, where the whole design of the 4-3 is to emphasize the skill sets of your edges. That's the whole foundation of a 4-3 defense. It's built on the talent of your edges and their abilities to get off, especially on their first steps. So when you go back and even look at Dante Fowler and you look at the first things that come up, if you just Google him, right? It's a Fowler is the favorite to be the first edge defender selected in the 2015 NFL draft. Fowler is a bigger and heavier than either of Randy Gregory or Shane Ray. Y'all remember those names? Yeah. So Fowler could interest 4-3 teams as a defensive end, as well as remaining as a 3-4 outside linebacker. That's what he played at Florida. So the good thing about Fowler is you actually have more flexibility, which fits Quinn even more, where he runs a hybrid of the 4-3 and a 3-4. He mixes it up and he doesn't show one dominant base defensive look. He doesn't. But the funny thing is, when you look at Dante Fowler and you look at him, it's one thing that could also hurt him, right? And that's the talent that's going to be playing with him. Because if you look at him coming out, now this is somebody that's a top 5 draft choice. You know, 6'3", 261, right? 4.6 speed. Bench press wasn't that impressive. Well, it was one thing that was said by Tomlin. And he talked about in this good interview on the Pivot, and I do have the full interview in the description. One of the things that he said is when you trying to forecast when a career is going to end, he say some things buy you time, some things take away your time in terms of rushing you to the end of your NFL career. That is one thing that is happening to Mr. Fowler, to where his time is ticking more so because obviously his measurables was good for his particular draft. But if you compare him to Sam Williams, you talking about a guy who came out with a freakish draft, okay? Freakish, right? Where you had a lot of 4.4s and you had a lot of 4.5s and you had a lot of great tape. The defensive ends was the best athletes in the draft when he came out, period, right? I can easily tell you that if Sam Williams, with the conference that he played in, with the 12 sacks that he got, with the raw measurables, would have been at Dante Fowler's draft, he likely would have been a top 5 guy as well. Yes, I said that, because a lot of times where you drafted doesn't mean that you're not an impact player. Sometimes you are in a weak draft or in a strong draft, and that's what Mike Tomlin was talking about, to where sometimes things can buy you time or take away your time, right? So the only thing, and I'm just given a full analysis of what can really hurt the restoration of somebody like a Fowler. It's the fact that it's true competition also sitting behind him with Sam Williams and others that's going to be anxious. But if he didn't have the quality of guys that's going to be backing him up and breathing down his neck, I would bet like $1,000 or 10,000 that you would see a full, absolute restoration of Dante Fowler. So I'm gonna be watching, because I'm still betting on him, but I think it's gonna come down to him and Sam Williams as the guys that's gonna be the potential true guys that's gonna take over. But it's obvious when you look at our track record, us dealing with the Marshall's free agents greatly pays off dividends for the Dallas Cowboys. It worked with Randall Cobb when we was trying to find a replacement for Cole Beasley. It worked with Robert Quinn when we was trying to deal with the, Randy Gregory and the suspension issues. It worked with Amari Cooper when he was coming over from the Raiders. It also worked with Malik Hooker when he was going through what he was going through as a former great. It was also one of the main reasons Philly won their Super Bowl. If you go look at the Super Bowl that Philly won, it was built on the backs of the flawed free agents. Foles was considered a bust. He was considered somebody that was washed up. Ajayi was called a cancer coming over from Miami. Blunt, he was having issues because he was suspended over marijuana and blunts. And then you had Jefferson, which was the top receiver at the time. He was suspended before they acquired him over PEDs. And then if you go look at the history of New England, this is New England's favorite way to build, is off of flawed guys, Marshall's guys, former greats that build your holes. That's exactly what the Dallas Cowboys are doing, and that's what we've been doing, and that's what we're doing with Dante. So regardless, man, I'm upside big time on Dante. Big time. Just because of the history and the track record of the Cowboys showing that they are fantastic at restoring the careers of former greats. They do a great job of it. Not a little job. They do a great job of it. So if you like this content, it's the same old, same old. We trying to give you these facts. We not giving you fake Kool-Aid and blind optimism. We giving you real stuff to be optimistic about. Stuff that we really see as game changes and potential game changes for the Dallas Cowboys, stuff that we see go work. So make sure y'all like and subscribe to Boss Cowboy Sports, because this is somebody to really be excited about his potential, because he was quiet, remember, on Quinn, but it got loud after he began to get those sacks. I predict it's going to be the same thing between Dante Fowler and Sam Williams, but y'all get ready for a good defense, and y'all stay up. We're going to be bringing you more content at Boss Cowboy Sports. Peace.